For more on this, we're joined by Dr. Sonja Theron, who's a lecturer of security studies at the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Good to have you on the program, Doc. I want to start with your reaction to the deal. Does the ceasefire represent a genuine turning point in the Gaza conflict, or is it just a tactical pause here?
That's a very good question. The reality is that we don't know. We definitely have received the sense that this ceasefire has been possible due to a lot of external pressure that has been imposed on the conflict parties, which will, give one pause to question the real level of buy-in and how the longevity of this agreement. Nevertheless, I do think it is still an opportunity that with the right moving parts, with the right pressures, with the right circumstances, could potentially lead to I wouldn't say a resolution of the broader conflict between Israel and Palestine, but hopefully a resolution to the current conflict between Hamas and Israel.
So both Israel and Hamas signed the deal under intense international pressure, safe to say at least. Do you believe either party is truly committed to seeing a lasting peace in that region, or just trying to buy more time?
I think it's the question is how one interprets lasting peace. I think both parties are certainly committed to achieving their version of peace. And we definitely have seen that, particularly the Netanyahu, the current leader of Israel, is very determined on his vision of the future of Israel and Palestine. We certainly have also seen similar, sense of purpose on the Hamas side. So it could very well be a decision to pause, because we definitely see that both parties are not just under pressure internationally, but Israel is under pressure domestically. Hamas is not winning strategically, militarily. It may need the pause to gather its resources, to get a few short-term wins, to be able to recalibrate. I definitely am skeptical that the next stage, which is the expectation that Hamas will fully pull out of the Gaza Strip, is going to be something that is easily achieved.
Of course, there are reactions from the White House as well. President Donald Trump is touting this as a diplomatic triumph from what he says. Is this a breakthrough really in your view, or does it gloss over unresolved tensions, particularly Hamas's future and Israeli security concerns as well?
I think definitely. I think the ceasefire, as welcome as it is, and as important as it is to get humanitarian aid in, is a band-aid. It's a short-term solution. And even if you look at the 20-point roadmap that is meant to indicate what comes next, even that in itself is only medium term, and it's very thin on the details of what happens next in terms of the governing of Gaza. So yes, it's a breakthrough. It is an opportunity, but a triumph that is necessarily a signal of a significant turning of relationships and a resolution to the very contentious and intractable issues between Israel and Palestine. I don't particularly see that.
Also interesting is that this agreement includes the release of all hostages and over 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. What are the security and political implications of this, Doc, of this large prisoner exchange that we're seeing, especially with figures like Marwan Barghouti also included in this number?
Yeah, so that is the question, is this an effort by Hamas to get this prisoner exchange with no real intention to continue the talks further? We definitely may also see that there may be backtracking from Israel. We've already seen that there's some miscommunication apparently about who exactly is going to be released, and Israel would very likely claim security reasons for why it would not release certain individuals. So, and of course, there may be valid as well as some potentially invalid reasons for that. So there definitely is a sense of, yes, Israel may release these prisoners, but is Hamas going to take the next step, which is apparently to demobilize and disarm? And for me, the trust between the two parties is very thin at the moment. So we will have to wait and see.
Yeah. As we wait and see as well, there's still no clear plan for Gaza's post-war governance, if you will. What scenarios are realistically on the cards here, on the table? And how viable are these ideas on a board of peace led by Trump and, very interestingly, Tony Blair?
Yeah, very interesting. So what's interesting is that the principle is not new. The principle of an external actor overseeing some sort of governance in a post-conflict territory. We saw that in Yugoslavia. We saw that in East Timor. Though in those cases, the administrating authority was the UN. And you preferably would want some party that at least shows some degree of impartiality, which, with Israel's allies sitting on the board of peace that is meant to oversee this very nebulous idea of, apolitical Palestinian technocrats. We don't know who those will be. It's still very, very unsure. And I think there is a lot of room for mistakes to be made, for Palestinians to feel disenfranchised, to feel potentially cheated out of their right to self-determination. We're seeing already that the Palestinian Authority is trying to gain some ground in the sense of they should have some say in how the Gaza Strip will be governed, and already Israel saying no, that's not an option for them. So, the viability of this, it is certainly viable in theory. It has been done in the past, but the details need to be considered very carefully.
Yeah. But also coming out of Israel, Netanyahu's coalition is deeply divided, with far-right ministers opposing the deal. Could this political rift, if you will, in Israel derail the implementation of this agreement?
I think definitely it could. Definitely it could. We see Netanyahu having to really manage the power base that he has built for himself, which has been based on a very hard line position, while also facing pressures from those who have bought into that, the right-wing hardliners who are not open to peace, and as well as then pressures from those who are saying they want peace, they're tired of this. And in some ways, it could derail peace. But we may also see some potential for peace in the sense that, to some degree, the only real change that we are going to see in this conflict is if there is some internal change within Israel that looks towards really rethinking how they want to see their future with Palestine.
So the deal also includes the entry of 400 to 600 aid trucks a day into Gaza. How significant is this development from a humanitarian standpoint, and what challenges could arise in aid distribution in that region?
I mean, it is absolutely significant. We've seen how Israel's control of Gaza's borders has completely hampered the ability to bring aid into the Strip. It is a way that Israel has been able to maintain a strategic advantage by controlling aid and using it almost in a very strategic manner. So it is very significant for the people on the ground. The people on the ground who are returning to a disastrous situation, to no homes, no food, no economy, it will be essential. Again, the question will be, this is a very short period in which Hamas has to release the hostages and for this prisoner exchange to then occur, is, again, the messaging that we've been seeing from aid organizations is they're ready. They're ready to go in, but it's still not clear from the powers that be, okay, when can you go in? How can you go in? Where can you go in? And so it's still very much, there's this hope that they will go in, but also a sense of is there something else at play here? You know, is this really going to materialize?
Yeah. Also interesting is that Hamas refuses to disarm unless all Israeli troops withdraw. Is disarmament a realistic expectation here, or is this where the deal could start to unravel?
It's definitely, for me, that would probably be the main sticking point, the disarmament and the governance of Gaza, because the roadmap that President Trump has proposed doesn't even allow for a full withdrawal of Israel. It allows for a buffer zone, I think which would be still about 15% of Gaza's territory. Now, considering how Israel has already been encroaching on Palestinian territory, I suspect that's going to be contentious, and I suspect that Hamas is not going to, you know, walk away in that type of situation where Israel is still within the territory. But I also definitely see Israel is not going to withdraw if Hamas still has weapons. So it is, unfortunately, it is a catch-22 situation, and it is, we're not even close to there yet, as far as I'm aware, to either party really conceding on either of those points.
Yeah, but Dr. Theron, we've seen ceasefires collapse before. What mechanisms, if any, are in place currently to enforce compliance and even prevent a return to violence in this region?
Yes, we do. And I mean, unfortunately, for as many ceasefires as we've seen lead to a peace agreement, we've probably seen more collapse. And at the moment, I believe the guarantees are predominantly trying to be ensured by the regional powers, Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, on Hamas's side, and of course, US on Israel's side. So the question will be, how long can these powers maintain pressure on these actors? How long are they willing to maintain pressure? And what mechanisms do they have to maintain pressure? So the US has a great deal of leverage over Israel as its largest ally. But the question is, does that outweigh the right-wingers that Netanyahu is facing in his government, for example? So there certainly has to be guarantees put in place. These guarantees are going to have to come from regional and global partners. And of course, there's also then questions of, you know, talks of sending in a stabilization mission to try and ensure these things. We know from our experience on the African continent, those things are complicated and hard to get off the ground, and in most cases underfunded. Doesn't mean that they can't be successful and useful, but these are all still early days, and we don't know how these things are going to materialize yet.
And finally, Doc, looking forward, what does this deal mean for the broader push, especially toward a two-state solution, which seems increasingly elusive?
Yes. So the question of a two-state solution is something that, I mean, it's plagued us for many years. And at the end of the day, it's not so much about, you know, one-state solution versus two-state solution. We see global, you know, international actors increasingly recognizing Palestine. But what it comes down to is it will only work if the conflict parties buy into it and are willing to make it work. And currently, the roadmap we've been given doesn't even put that on the table. I suspect because Israel will refuse to put that on the table. We've definitely seen they're already trying to put in kind of boundaries with the Palestinian Authority that this is not this is not about recognizing Palestine in any way. So this is really about resolving this current iteration of the conflict. Look, it could potentially open doors for a longer term solution. But we don't, at the moment, I think the focus is on addressing the Gaza problem and trying to stop the disastrous consequences that are emerging there.
Dr. Sonja Theron, thank you so much for your time.